I'm not teaching, but I'm publicly learning. And hi and welcome to Learning for the Life in the UK test part 33, the Wars of the Roses part 2. That is on page 21 by doing medial plane training. And participating in the medial plane training is at your own risk. So we had already that in 1455 that a civil war broke out. It lasted for 30 years, so from 1455 until 1485. In 1485 there was the Battle of Bosworth Field, and in that battle we were at that point. The two houses fought, the House of York with the symbol of a white rose, and the House of Lancaster with a red rose had fought there. Now we are trying to know who the leaders were. So King Richard III was of York, and he was killed. Richard III was killed with a white rose. Maybe you can remember it that way. King Richard III was killed, and he had the white rose for the House of York. And Henry Tudor, you can memorize that. Henry, he became then Henry VII, when he became the king, King Henry VII. So he was Henry and he was Tudor, because maybe we will get something more to the Tudor. So he was Henry the Tudor, and he had the Lancaster. Henry Tudor, the House of Lancaster. We will go on, and maybe we will find a better place to remember these 5-6 things together in one logical sentence, which makes sense, and we just know to one of them or something like that, and all the others are making then sense. So let's start with the medial plane training. We're having the legs standing wide apart, breathing in and out, and again in and out, again in and out, and the last round, breathe in, out, now close the legs. And we can do the first exercise. You have a good standing leg. All exercises are standing on one leg. You bring the other leg up into a right angle of the leg with a flexed foot, with even aligned hips, and you're taller with the back. Now you're pressing from the top against the knee. Taller with the back, little bend in the elbow, and even aligned hips, and put effort into it. Taller with the back, even aligned hips, little bend in the elbow, and switching to the other side. The leg up, right angle with the leg, flex foot, even aligned hips, taller with the back, and we're pressing over the top with a little bend in the elbow of the heel. And put effort in it. Even aligned hips, taller with the back. And a little longer. Even aligned hips, taller with the back. And we can now wait. So let's read one. Henry then married King Richard's niece, so I guess of King Richard III of the House of the York, of the House of York. So Henry Tudor and then King Henry VII, after the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485, married the niece of King Richard III. I still can't remember that. Yeah. Elizabeth of York. Yes, the ones with the white rose were the family of York. And her name was Elizabeth of York. And united the two families. So after the fighting they could make peace. Maybe we could have done it before the fighting. So Elizabeth of York was the niece of King Richard III of the House of York. Elizabeth of York. And she married King Henry VII, who was King Henry Tudor. And with that, the two families, the House of York with the white rose and the House of Lancaster with the red rose, were united. Let's go on with the next exercise. We are bringing again the leg up into a right angle with a flexed foot, even aligned hips, taller with the back, and now we're pressing from the inside. Again with quite a lot of force. Right angle with the leg, flexed foot, even aligned hips, taller with the back, little bend in the elbow, and press against the knee. and the other side. The leg up, right angle with the leg, flex foot, even lined hips taller with the back, and we're pressing on the inside against the knee. Again with quite a lot of movement. And a little bend in the elbow. Taller with the back, even lined hips. And we're done with this exercise. The symbol of the House of Tudor was a red rose with a white rose inside it as a sign that the House of York and Lancaster were now allies. So the symbol of the House of Tudor was a red rose with a white rose inside it, as a sign that the Houses of York and Lancaster were now allies. So after fighting for 30 years in the Wars of the Roses from 1455 until 1485, after the war-ending battle of Bosworth Field in 1485, in which King Richard III of the Houses of York died, the niece of King Richard III, Elizabeth York, married King Henry VII, who as Henry the Tudor was the leader of the House of Lancaster with the Red Rose, and that united the families, and because they were now allies, they made a new symbol out of the roses, the York with the white rose and Lancaster with the red rose, and made it just the red and white rose of the House of Tudor. I guess that's when the Tudor rose. But maybe not. But yes, I think we can say that. Because he was Henry Tudor when he was as House of Lancaster, but when he was as a part of the leader of the House of Lancaster, his rose was red. So if we say the Tudor rose, we don't mean the rose he had as Henry Tudor, which would be the House of Lancaster's red rose. So I guess we could simplify it and say that this is the Tudor rose. And it kind of makes sense because we're writing the red and white rose of the House of Tudor, and if we turn the sentence around, it is the House of Tudor red and white rose. So the House of Tudor rose, or the Tudor rose. So let's say that is the red Lancaster rose, the white York rose, and the red and white Tudor rose, because they're in one family, because Elizabeth of York, the niece of King Richard III, who had died in the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485, had married Henry Tudor, or then King Henry VII, and the families were now allies, and we needed a new symbol, the red and white rose of Tudor. Next exercise, we're bringing one leg up, right into the leg, flex foot, even line hips, taller with the back, and now the knee presses up into the hand, to the side, up into the hand, and to the side, up into the hand, and to the side. The knee presses up to the side, up to the side. Taller with the back, even line hips, and now with the other knee. The leg up, right angle with the leg, flex foot, even aligned hips, and the knee presses up to the side, up to the side. The knee presses up to the side, up to the side. Taller with the back, even aligned hips, right angle, leg, flex foot. And the knee presses up to the side, up to the side. And we're done with this exercise. Now to the last exercise, one leg up, still right angle, flex foot, even aligned hips, taller with the back. You're pressing from the side against the knee, have a little bend in the elbow, and now we're bringing the knee to the outside, but we're still pressing out. And again into the middle. And directly out. Taller with the back, even line hips. And back to the inside. And control it. And with the other leg. The leg up, right angle with the leg, flex foot, even line hips, taller with the back. Pressing against the knee. And we are opening slowly. Taller with the back, we're still the whole time. And we're closing again slowly. And now, second round. We're opening. And then they're closing slowly again. And control. not just the closing exercise. Breathing in, out, again in, out, again in, and out, and we're closing the legs. And we're done with medial plane training. So the War for Roses, 1455, 1485, the House of York with the white rose and the House of Lancaster with the red rose were fighting who should be the next king. King Henry III then died in the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485, and the leader of our house, House of Lancaster with the red rose, Henry Tudor, became the king Henry VII. He married the niece of King Richard III, Elizabeth of York, and the houses united, they became allies, and we had a new symbol, now the red and white rose of the House of Tudor. Thank you very much. No, we have something else here. Check that you understand. We're having something here, I just saw it. Tudors and the Stuarts is the next thing. Check that you understand the wars that took place in the Middle Ages. Understand. Now it is a bit complex. These are not of wars, technically. And I guess we should understand them more. Maybe we should do this in the next video. How Parliament began to develop. Okay, that is way too much. I thank you very much. And the next part in 34, we're going through these questions. So, thank you very much, and until next time.